I'm such a Bill Burr fan that I actually bought a ticket for me and my wife and two of our friends to go see Bill Burr at the Hard Rock Casino down here in Hollywood, Florida. And I have to say, it was one of the worst shows I ever saw in my life because he got up there and Bill Burr has become woked. He has become woked, I assume, because his wife is very much on the left. Over time, I think he became embarrassed that many people on the right thought he was very funny. And so he decided that he was going to start woking it up.
Like that idiot Ben Shapiro. No, he's woke now. He's like, I don't, at one point, the guy liked me.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to look at that guy like he's an adult?
Alright, so as you may know by now, Bill Burr recently made headlines after he called out the group of dude bro podcasters who platform corrupt politicians and world leaders without ever giving pushback. But another huge call out in that interview that you might have missed was when Bill Burr addressed his ongoing beef with Ben Shapiro. And so I touched on this briefly in my initial video about that podcast, but I actually think it deserves more attention because after learning about the history of this beef, I quickly realized that this was probably the biggest moment of little Ben Shapiro's career. Because, believe it or not, at one point in time, little Ben was actually Bill Burr's #1 fan. Like, he promoted Bill's special on his Twitter account in 2019, calling it shocking and audacious, and he even made an entire YouTube video defending the comedian in 2021, titled Leftists Outraged Over Bill Burr Jokes at the 2021 Grammys.
Bill Burr said a thing, and the thing was unwoke, because our cultural Puritans can never allow Bill Burr to make a joke about his own inability to pronounce Latino names. You can Latinx names.
So up until 7 months ago, Ben Shapiro thought that Bill Burr was on his team. You know, he thought Bill was one of these anti-woke mafia heroes such as himself. But then in February of this year, Bill Burr vocalized his support for Luigi Mangione and criticized the evil practices of billionaire CEOs. Which seemed to hurt little Ben's feelings. So much so that he made an hour-long podcast about Bill Burr, claiming that his stand-up's become weak, that he's become disconnected from his audience, and that he's turned into a woke a-hole ever since he married his current wife.
So this brings us to Bill Burr. So I have to say, Bill Burr is so Bill Burr, I used to really enjoy his work. I mean, on occasion, I still enjoy his work. He's a comedian, which means he's very hit or miss. His Red Rock special, for example, hilarious. I'm such a Bill Burr fan that I actually bought a ticket for me and my wife and two of our friends to go see Bill Burr at the Hard Rock Casino down here in Hollywood, Florida. And I have to say, it was one of the worst shows I ever saw in my life because he got up there and Bill Burr has become woked. He has become woked, I assume, because his wife is very much on the left. Over time, I think he became embarrassed that many people on the right thought he was very funny. And so he decided that he was going to start woking it up. So this entire show that he did in Hollywood, Florida, it was so bad that he got frustrated with the audience. The audience was not laughing at his jokes because his jokes were basically about how Floridians were a bunch of anti-gay racists. And Floridians were like, that's not true. There are a lot of gay people who live down here and a lot of Hispanics and black people who live down here. And in fact, the room is filled with Jews. Right? And so he actually got so frustrated, he ended up cutting his show early and walking off the stage. And the reason was he was totally disconnected from the audience. Well, that disconnect has continued. And now he is proclaiming that he is very happy that CEOs are walking around in fear for their lives. In any case, here is Bill Burr openly cheering the murder of a United Health executive because he says CEOs should live in fear if they don't act in the way that he would have them act in a system that he has no fixes for, by the way.
I love that CEOs are afraid right now. You should be. By and large, you're all a bunch of selfish, greedy pieces of shit. And a lot of you are mass murderers. You just don't pull the trigger. That's why it looks clean. That's why these people look, oh my God, he was just, walking into a hotel. It's like, okay, but what was his job? What did he do? What was the results of it?
Okay, Bill Burr is a piece of... Okay, well, what he is saying here is truly evil.
And what's so satisfying about this podcast was the golden irony of Shapiro stating that Bill Burr was disconnected from his audience. Because if you slowly scroll down, you'll quickly see that this video was ratioed into the ground with dislikes. And pretty much everyone in the comment section let Ben know just how idiotic he sounded. And it seemed that they all came to the conclusion that Ben Shapiro would get on all fours and bark like a dog if a billionaire CEO told him to. I mean, absolutely no one agreed with what Ben was saying there. So this podcast was a overall pathetic attempt to rile up some kind of beef with Bill Burr, I guess. But the fact that Shapiro's own audience found this take to be brain dead says just about everything you need to know about the guy. And that was pretty much the end of the story. Until Bill Burr responded a few weeks later, saying, "I don't know who he is, but that guy is a jerk-off." Which, of course, goes without saying, but it's still a perfect way to sum it all up. After that response, though, of course, there was radio silence from Burr. Since, according to Bill Burr, this whole feud that Shapiro was trying to drum up with him was completely driven by money. And then Shapiro just continued making negative videos about him and his wife, sandwiched in between ads for ExpressVPN, The Daily Wire, you name it. The whole thing was a grift. So Bill Burr wisely took the higher road, until a few weeks ago, when he was sort of put on the spot about the whole Ben Shapiro thing after the interviewer asked him directly about the situation. So to put the final nail in the coffin, Bill Burr aired out everything that he's bottled up over the last 7 months, exposing Shapiro for being a greasy slick talker who's cultivated this toxic fanbase of chronically online extremists who have also been harassing Bill and his wife for the last 7 months.
Summarize for people who have been watching your career so closely. In this last few months, you've had a few things happen, which is Ben Shapiro talked about going to one of your shows and complaining about you becoming woke, which sort of then created this...
He doesn't even know what that word means.
Let me summarize.
His definition of woke is white liberals' definition of woke, and they didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
They just took the word from black people. That's the worst thing about our people, is not only do we take from other cultures, we don't even take the time to understand the definition.
Yeah.
He went there to be annoyed so he can then have something to talk about, and then he can make money off of dividing his own country.
Yeah.
Those people, it's treasonous what they do.
Yes, but to be fair, or not to be fair, the fact is that it worked for what his goal is, which is then it became a thing online where then a certain portion of the right complain about how you're woke.
Racists.
And more racist.
They're racist. Yeah, they send pictures of monkeys to me and my wife. They're fucking horrible people, and they're cowards, and they never say it to your face.
Yeah.
They never do that. And no, they're like, look, dude, there's an ugliness that's out there right now where, there's certain podcasts out there that if you're a racist, if you're an anti-Semite, if you're a psycho-nationalist and you want a softball interview, there's podcasts out there where you can, and they will laugh at your fucking bad jokes and just give you this pass. And it's like, there's a really ugly thing that's going on out there. And, it's the kind of things we've already seen this, and we've seen what it does to a nation. And it's not the way to go.
And real quick here, I just love that Bill spoke about how these guys hijacked the word woke and gave it an entirely new and negative meaning. Because what Bill Burr said was true. Like, people throw it around as an insult nowadays, but it wasn't ever supposed to take on that meaning. Bill saying that also shows you how Shapiro obviously just panders to his crowd and their buzzword of the day, as Shapiro is just in it for money, which Bill wants zero part of. Later in this interview, Bill Burr details how silly it was of Ben to have him as his favorite comedian just because one of his jokes aligned with his worldview, just to then completely flip-flop on him as soon as he made fun of something against that view. It was very childlike, which Bill summarizes in a perfect way.
What I'm finding is that people keep trying to categorize what it is that you're doing. Like that idiot Ben Shapiro. No, he's woke now. He's like, I don't. That fucking guy. Someone came to me and goes, "Hey man, you should." He was trying to bring me into his fold. At one point, the guy liked me.
Yeah.
And then when I didn't, then all of a sudden I'm a fucking asshole. I mean, I'm supposed to look at that guy like he's an adult?
And you see, Bill Burr wasn't just assuming here that Shapiro was a fan of his at one point in time, because as I mentioned at the start of this video, Shapiro actually defended Bill Burr for making jokes about Latinos at the 2021 Grammy Awards.
I will accept on behalf of her. If I butchered her name, I'm sorry. All right. Hey, how many feminists are like going nuts? So why is this cis white male doing all this Latino stuff?
Okay, and people on the woke left were like, it's true. Why is that white male doing all this Latino stuff? And then commenting on it. How dare he, laughing about butchering people's names? How dare he? Right, this is where the Puritanism comes out. because our cultural Puritans can never allow Bill Burr to make a joke about his own inability to pronounce Latino names. You can Latinx names, right? You can never make a joke about that. Is witch burning stuff, right? He must be burned. Bill Burr is a bad man because he is cis and he is white, where the H comes before the W. White, right? He is a very, very bad man. But you know what is great for our culture? What is great for our culture is Harry Styles wore a boa.
But as soon as Bill Burr said stuff that Shapiro didn't really like, all of a sudden Bill's now apparently a lazy hack who tarnished his career after marrying his wife. And then, of course, after that call out, Ben Shapiro responded literally the morning after that podcast aired. I mean, you just know he was jumping with joy as soon as he learned about it. And what went down in the studio that day was quite possibly the most desperate, lazy, cringe-inducing attempt at a clapback that I've ever witnessed in my life. Like, you could tell that he really wanted to savagely roast Bill Burr, maybe thinking the two of them would have it back and forth like he always dreamed about. But after watching this, you're gonna see that A, he was very clearly reading a script off his teleprompter, seemingly for the first time, and B, the entire script was generated by AI. I'm gonna touch on that more after this clip plays, but I'm 99% sure that he used AI to write this shitty little roast he made for Burr. There's just a lot of dead giveaways in it that you'd clue in on immediately if you're familiar with the way that ChatGPT writes, but more on that later.
Okay, so now Bill Burr would presumably call that Bill Burr insensitive and unresponsive to the needs and definitions of black people. Which, all of this is amazing, guys, because Bill Burr is whiter than a painting of a polar bear in snow on a white canvas. So he's actually the most annoying form of a woke person. A white lib, the kind he likes to criticize. The white person who apologizes for being white by pretending that he can speak on behalf of black people about the systemic privileges of being white. Oh yeah, while pulling down millions of dollars to be an angry thumb of a human. So bald Rumpelstiltskin over here, who gets mad when you call him by his real name, is still pissed off. I didn't enjoy his comedy show last year, and he thinks that I and my friends and my wife, we all paid to attend his show just so that I could criticize him. No, here's the thing. On a random weekday night, if I'm going to a comedy show, I'm going because I want to laugh. We paid to attend your show because you used to be funny. And then you transed yourself and turned into a white, bald, allegedly male version of Sonny Hassan on The View, screeching at me about income inequality and racism. There is some irony to the fact that as you lost your nuts, you morphed into a shriveled nutsack of a human. And now you've decided that you're a victim, and that everyone you know is a victim, and that America is cruel and nasty and such, and you're deliberately misunderstood just because you won't put on a great show anymore, which makes me sad, because I enjoyed watching Bill Burr. But now watching you is like watching Robin DiAngelo, but even whiter and even faker and less funny, and with a screechy Boston accent to boot. You turn into Billy, the piss-drunk woke leprechaun. Good luck with that, my dude. Listen, I hope you turn it around. I really do, because the world needs better comedians. And I like a lot of comedians who disagree with me. Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle. But you know what we don't need? 57-year-old men trying to earn street cred with the fellow kids by turning into a human embodiment of those in this house lawn signs. That makes me sad. It does. And yeah, you're being a woke jackass.
You cannot tell me that that entire thing wasn't written with ChatGPT. And even if it wasn't, it's seriously some embarrassing stuff to be putting out to hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, come on, little Benjamin. This was truly the biggest moment of your career. Like, Bill Burr never calls out anyone by name anymore. He didn't even mention Joe Rogan's name in that interview. Like, the last time this happened was when he called out Elon Musk, and that was huge. So just a little more effort would have at least been respectable. But yeah, guys. Sadly enough, this call out by Burr was the highlight of Ben Shapiro's miserable career, because that pretty much wraps up the Shapiro versus Burr saga for the rest of eternity, as Bill Burr is likely done with this mosquito that is Ben Shapiro. So with that being said, that is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching.
Freedom!